The first task of a young dinosaur is to eat. That's usually difficult enough, but in this server we have 350 people online. So around almost every corner there's another dino. On top of that, there's no AI, so we're all fighting for the same food. But on this stormy evening, I've spawned in right in front of a raptor pack. Lucky for me, their attention is drawn by a young trike. So if the Isle gods are in my favor, hopefully I can just sneak by because I'm pretty sure I smelled something tasty in the distance. And even though I'm walking through bushes, I think the storm's gonna mask my steps, so I should be okay. I've located a meal and ripped it open so I can steal a few organs. I think that was a heart, which is the best diet, because that lets me heal. Unfortunately, my piece didn't last long, and when I tried to steal another organ, the slowness caused me to catch a tail bite. Those Ceratos may be young, but they pack a punch, especially to a freshie like me. But I'm faster than them, and when I ran away, they didn't follow, so I was pretty grateful for that. Even so, I still tried to make sure to choose a good bush to hide in. With this organ, hopefully I'd have enough food to wait out the storm, and heal. A storm gives me the advantage of cover, but also the disadvantage of not being able to hear danger when it sneaks up on me. And personally, I think I prefer the quieter weather. When morning finally arrived, the storm had slowed. So in the light downfall, I made my way across the bridge in search of food. The raptors had left, so I was feeling a lot more confident in exploring. Right here I thought that I noticed the Sarah sitting in a bush. I ran past expecting it to chase me, but when I sniffed I noticed some meat smells. I guess he's dead. My guess is that the raptors got to him. But all the organs were still inside, so I guess it could have been a herbivore. After getting my fill, I stole an extra organ and ran for it, especially when I saw that raptor sitting up on the rock there. No thank you, I do not want to be raptor breakfast. I had chosen a not so camouflageable skin in the selector, so my best bet was to hide while I grew. Soon I realized my water was low, and when I came to get a drink I found yet another corpse by the water. I also noticed this small croc swimming up. At first I wanted to ambush him, but when he emerged from the water I realized he wasn't the free kill I first expected. He was a little bit bigger. Maybe not big enough to grab me, but couldn't really take the chance. I took my organ and minded my own business before remembering I needed to drink. And with the croc distracted, I thought maybe I could do that really quick. I gave him a little wiggle, sign of friendliness. He gave me a wiggle, so I thought surely we're fine. But then when I heard the splashes of the approaching croc trying to grab me, I used the water glitch to my advantage and walked on out of there. The water glitch is pretty easy. You just hold E for a moment till your face touches the water, let go, and then hold it again. Then, the second time that you're holding it down, you just use a movement key, like walking forward. But if you walk sideways, there's a brief moment where your camera will line up with your player, so you can use it to move your camera towards where you're trying to go, and in my case that was towards the woods. Because after that small window, your camera will lock in place like when you're drinking from a water source and you won't be able to turn around. When I came to reclaim my organ, I heard the sound of an approaching ghillie pack. That is not something I wanted to run into, and I'm honestly not sure if they didn't see me, or perhaps just took mercy on me. I'm leaning towards the side of thinking they didn't see me, because they passed by without making too much of a fuss. My heart was honestly racing. I did not want to be kicked to the respawn screen. But I suppose it wasn't my time. The Isle had mercy on me, and I took my organ right back to my bush. On this day I was quite happy to just sit in peace and grow. After a short while, my second mutation unlocked. For my first mutation, I had chosen bleed resistance, so I was really debating if I needed thrombosis or not. I was contemplating maybe choosing this mutation, which gives me more damage if I'm hungry. I'm honestly not sure if this mutation applies to your charge or only to your bite. I hummed and hawed over it for a little while, before thinking back to another time. This Kano life didn't quite make the cut, but I thought the clip was interesting enough to include. These dealers were just chilling on the bridge, and I was quite happily going to walk by until one of them tried to nip me on the tail. I gave him a good bite in return, but he didn't get the hint. The packmates emerged from the bushes, and slowly my vision turned black. I thought if I got on this bridge, they wouldn't be able to escape from me and send clones in the bushes surrounding, and they wouldn't be able to weave side to side and avoid my charge. The first to fall was their youngest member, but that didn't do a thing to slow down the fight. As they closed in on both sides, I panicked a bit and began to spam my ult bites. I wasn't the only one panicking though, and when they tried to run away on a narrow bridge, I caught 2 of their members. Probably due to server lag, I somehow sent this guy flying with only 2 steps of charge. When he stood up, he unfortunately got stuck, but I couldn't afford to offer them any mercy. Today, the game rules are the game rules. If you get stuck, you get stuck. In this moment, I did contemplate just walking away, but as the clones were sent in, I decided I wasn't going to give up. This sneaky guy was hiding behind the bridge, but when I tried to bite him, I slipped down the ledge. Just then, one of my stages of venom cleared, and I caught him in a head charge as he ran down for me. After that, it was lights out. There wasn't anywhere he could go. Now you might be thinking, I thought this was a story about bleed. You seem fine. Well, I was fine. So fine that I thought I could take a bite right in front of this hero. I couldn't even get revenge because I had an organ in my mouth. My plan was to calmly walk away, but he didn't like that idea and he tried to chase me and give me a few more nips. When I tried to charge, he escaped again. Seeing how far my blood had drained, I started to panic a little. I wanted to get a bit of distance. As a Hera enjoyer myself, I know that they'll always pursue. So I wanted to sit in a spot where I could see if he was going to come, because I knew where he was sitting. And, moments later, I was still heavily bleeding, but this wasn't a safe spot, and nowhere around was a safe spot either, so I just had to keep putting distance. The Hera tracking ability isn't very good, but that didn't stop me from worrying. As my blood dropped and my vision faded, I sat down in this bush and crossed my fingers, and probably my toes as well. I was actually very surprised to see my health was red. And so was my blood. As soon as the plus symbol came up on my health, I decided to walk back and forth. The Hera wouldn't know how close to death I was, and I was hoping that at least if I was up and moving, he would hesitate before jumping on my face. But considering I was on a mountaintop, that was pretty scary. As soon as my vision cleared enough to see, I was out of there. So I locked in my mutation, and then went wandering around the forest. That's when I noticed this little Sarah. I did want to fight him, but I was a bit nervous. With him being able to stand in a bush and trees to block my path, it wasn't the ideal fighting spot. But soon I would become pretty accustomed to this landscape, because this is the place I decided to grow. The fight didn't end up continuing, so I found myself something to eat. In the distance, young, irritating Sarahs continued to scream. In this forest, it's almost a natural part of the ambience to hear a young Sarah spamming the one call. Drawn by the screams of an irritating child, I wandered through the forest. An F-call caught my attention, but I did not expect to stumble upon what was hiding in the forest. And this time, I wasn't going to hesitate. I was so convinced I'd killed that orange Sarah right then that I spent a good 10 minutes looking for his corpse later on. Though I had secured a delicious meal, I wasn't quite done taking out the Cerrado population. I knew they would still be there. First, I sniffed to find the corpse, and then I charged. I took care of the runner first. He was clearly the brains of the operation because the second one didn't so much as try to walk away. So I dealt with him too. I walked over there mostly to scare him and teach him a lesson, but at this point my bloodlust had been quenched, so I let him escape. Not without a ram though. With all that diet, I was growing quickly, and soon I was racing through the forest. It had become my home and my hunting ground. It's pretty dark though, so I'll lighten it up. I thought I had found myself something tasty to kill, but unfortunately, the whole server had crashed. I couldn't even bite the little guy. Somehow I didn't catch it on recording. When I logged back in, that Sarah from the pond gave me a nasty bite. Anyways, in the distance, I heard the call of another Kano. After all this time alone, maybe it would be good to hunt with friends, and together we could take care of the Sarah population. This is someone I like to call CS. I knew them from a previous Kano life, and in the future, they're in another one of my Tenno videos. I think we just end up always playing at the same time, and somehow as the same animal too. CS was also a female, so we had the idea of nesting. But first, we'd have to make it safe in this forest. We did find a Sarah, but I don't think it was the large one I had seen earlier. Either way, we put a quick end to it. We also saw this blue Hera drinking. I'd sort of made friends with him during the night. I'd offered him a few organs, and he had offered to not jump me when I took a drink. I took his drinking at the water and the abundance of corpses as a sign that there were probably no dinos. Word of advice, there are often dinos in this tiny puddle of water, so be really careful before you take a drink. And also, before you eat anything. This Hera was doing God's work, culling the baby Sarahs. It was now time to leave my mark on this world. With the abundance of food, I felt confident to try and raise some young. Right after my children took their first steps, I actually crashed. But I just wanted to make note of this idiot's message in chat. It really cracked me up. Where are the Sarah eggs? Oh my god. We fed our babies for a while, but eventually they needed food, and I made the mistake of thinking that the Hera I had befriended was my friend. Apparently, he was not my friend, he was just a Hera. Opportunist as he is, he murdered one of my children. This was a great betrayal. In reaction to heartbreak, sometimes the only thing you can do is take out your rage on the nearest villain. That villain being a small Sarah. These two had made the grave mistake of being born into my part of the forest. Unfortunately, this is like one of the only two spawns these poor creatures get. But their misfortune wasn't going to stop me from doing what needed to be done. We killed them and fed them to our children. I also ran over this raptor pouncing a Trudon and thought it looked pretty funny. But the Northern Sanctuary cleanup mission is a hard, grueling task. It never ends. I was starting to feel a little guilty, so instead of murdering this one, I kinda just followed him around. Plus, killing babies as a full-grown does damage to your social score, which is only a thing in the Petits server. Scaring babies, on the other hand, that is completely legal, so I will continue to do that. After hearing a few Sarah calls, we made our way over to water access. That's where we found this guy. I think he had a special case of worms on the brain, because he decided to only chase me. I'm not sure what this tactic was meant to achieve. Unfortunately, I did get stuck on a tree, which is what tends to happen when you run headfirst with your camera in the opposite direction into a forest. That moment of stupidity cost me 2 bites, which caused me to puke, and then he got a 3rd bite. Honestly, the only thing I can assume here is that maybe he thought I was an outcast. When you do enough bad things in this server, you get a special skin. It's red and white. It signals that you're an outcast. And if you kill someone that has that skin, you get like an in-game currency reward, and you get a cool looking yellow and black skin. But either way, that strategy did not work out for him. And I really could have used a good meal, but soon a croc came over and claimed our prize. This, for me, is what began a long journey of pain and starvation. But I didn't know that yet. CS tried to show me a tactic to run across this part of the water. Apparently you're meant to charge, and that gives you enough speed to leap from the original rock onto like this middle kind of rock. But instead I just followed her blindly as we climbed around like idiots through the water. But the dino was distracted, which is a bright side. I honestly should have just gone back to the jungle, because we ended up going to highlands, and I was still hurt and still starving. CS, along with this other Kano, were trying to attack a Tenno, but in my state I couldn't really do much to help. My health was terrible and I was on the brink of starving. But, crocs doing what crocs do, the croc came and stole our prize, which was extremely annoying, but I don't think we probably would have got that kill anyway, because killing a full-grown Tenno is a pain in the ass as a Kano, especially when one of your teammates is already on death's door. I caught myself a single bite of food. This croc must have sensed my desperation because he came and brought me a body. But I kind of thought that it might be bait, and I was a bit nervous to go and take a bite. CS also said that they had food for me, and I did expect something a bit more than a hipsy, though I appreciate their efforts. During my hesitation of trying to take this bite, our teammate ended up grabbing a bite instead. Apparently, there was only one bite. What kind of fat croc offers you a body with only one bite on it? I mean, thanks, but jeez. I tried to grab a few organs, but these organs were fake. They had been wiped by the corpse clear, but they still looked like they were there on our screen, even though they weren't. So, feeling a little sad, I tried to eat this hipsy. It was not much for a large carnivore such as myself. We did find another little something to scavenge, but again I was hesitant to take a bite just in case this Kano got upset with us. It ended up being a Kano that I knew, which is pretty fun, but I wish that I had taken a bit more food, because we didn't have all day to eat this. There was a rather large herbivore sneaking through the bushes, getting ready to ambush us. It also didn't help that no matter how I turned my body, I couldn't seem to find the right place to grab a bite. At last I got a mouthful, which is when I heard the approaching footsteps of a gigantic beast. He stood there, rather ominously, I must say. I tried to make my way back to water access and hoping to find some food, but I didn't find much other than this scraggly little raptor. I didn't even end up catching the thing. Instead, it escaped from me. But I did find a new teammate after CS logged off. My last-ditch effort was to try and go back to Jungle Sanctuary. I don't know what kind of mix-packing hangout this was on the bridge, but when I tried to ram these raptors, some Sarahs ran around the corner at me. I was not prepared to fight 2 Sarahs by myself. So I tried to run back to my new teammate. But when I finally found Tempest, the Sarahs had left. My plan was still to run back to Sanctuary. We ran back and found a young Sarah to kill. I thought this was my big break. But since I had no food in my stomach, he made me instantly puke. And apparently he had friends that weren't too far behind. At this point I was not in a state to fight, so I had to run. I just want to say that starving to death and having vomit sickness feels a bit harsh. And also the food that was like 1 meter away but barely inside Sanctuary. Yeah, that's harsh. I did find this body. I was actually very excited to have a good meal, but the Sarahs weren't too far behind me, of course, so I had to run yet again. That's when a stroke of genius hit me. If they're here, who's on the last body? So I ran back to the original spot and got a few bites to eat. Though it wasn't much, I hoped that it would keep me going at least for a little while. With Sarah's taking over Sanctuary, I really couldn't afford to hang around, so I tried to go back to Highlands and ended up starving yet again. But at the last moment, a ray of hope shone down on me. A galley was out in the open. I don't really know what happened to Tempest either. I never one-called or tried to find him. I was a bit preoccupied trying to not die. I was really just not having luck here. I did find a human to eat, but I decided I should probably head south. Some Tennos found me and decided to do what Tennos do best and chase me. They bugged me all the way through the tunnel, because of course they did. When I found this little Tenno, it kind of felt like revenge, though in hindsight I feel a little bit bad. I made it all the way to South Plains, and again I was starving. I did find some other Sarahs, but they couldn't help me much either. They were also starving. During this time, it seemed to be somewhat of a kind of famine. It did feel good to see familiar faces again. Kentucky was one of the Kanos that I had seen up in Highlands. And of course, when we needed food most, corpses clear. I swear this game is set up to clear corpses as soon as you're starving. Apparently it's also set up to summon angry Sarahs. I wandered far and wide. I couldn't really afford to hang around and mess with Sarahs when I was on the brink of starvation and already half health. Thankfully, in the distance I heard a raptor's bark. So I pretty much beelined it straight there, and when I found the raptors, well, I had to dish them up. The raptor almost lost me in the dense foliage, but I kept my cool and listened for his footsteps. With every moment, my health lowered and I became closer to death. As he weaved back and forth, I lined up the last charge, and bit him once he fell over. So I was safe for now. Days and nights stretched on, as me and my pack scavenged of what we could. We had traveled all the way to Betrayal and back, eating a bit, but not enough to fill us up. So when I saw a battle break out between Sarah and Tenno, I decided to try and get involved. But there were about 3 Tennos, and with pack limit being 3 for Kano on this server, we couldn't overpack to fight them. So without much hope of fighting them, I tried to target a few of the Sarahs, giving them a bite as they fled into the forest. I also tried a few sneaky charges on the Tennos, but I couldn't really engage in an all-out battle. 3 is way too many. In this weather, it was hard to see much of anything, and the Tennos probably couldn't see me very well either, so I kept tracking them, following the trail of blood and chaos. Eventually, the Tennos turned around when they realized I was following. They didn't like me very much. I have this footage turned up because I don't want you to be staring at a black screen, but let's just say it was dark. and I was beginning to fear a rogue tail slam. Trees, tennos, and pitch black, not really the best combination. The fight against the tennos was soon forgotten, not to mention my teammates weren't really following me into that mess. I ended up logging out for the night, and when I came back there was a body drop right above my head. I was feeling pretty good about this. After many starving days and nights, this is exactly what I needed. Carefully I plucked it off the cliff and placed it on a bit of a flatter slope so I could take a bite. On this server, dead bodies are spawned instead of AI. And sometime after this video, the South Plains actually became an exclusion zone, meaning you couldn't teleport here with a friend code, and bodies don't actually spawn here anymore. Now, with a full stomach and feeling a lot better, I ran out into the open fields, only to be confronted by a whole gang of tennos. Presumably the same ones. Through the mayhem, I realized that they had a little guy with them. That was a perfect target. Oh my, I actually sent him flying. Oh my goodness. But he's still up over there. He's gonna grow into my mortal enemy. In the end, I don't remember what happened to the little guy. Most of the other Carnos wanted to flee, and I couldn't really stand around to fight 3 by myself. But that wouldn't stop me from messing with them a little. Every little skirmish is a chance to practice. Unfortunately, I couldn't hang around with the other Carnos. The group limit was 3 after all. So it was back to aimlessly wandering through the lands, though I did see a few galleys in the distance and I wanted to sneak up on them. Knowing they were over the hill, I wanted to use this bush to my advantage. But when I ran through it, I did not expect to see a galley right on the path. What can I say? A good hunter never hesitates. And neither did I. The poor galley squeaked at me while I chased her down, but in this wide open expanse, there was really nowhere she could run. A second Carno, hearing the commotion, ran to my aid, almost ramming me. I was a little nervous that maybe he wanted to fight, or steal my food, but in the end we made friends. And on the same path, I spotted a tenno coming our way, perhaps drawn by the galley's cries. I decided to go for the ambush. The tenno already looked a bit scarred up, so I was eager to try and fight it. That kick should have been my first warning. I'm not really sure how I got stunned from that distance, but for some reason I decided not to listen to the warning signs that I was lagging on this day, and with my ping spiked, I ran straight past a slam to the ground. After a life of struggle and starvation, I finally met my end.